So we're going to use queries to look at the results from our surveys and pull out some interesting stuff. You need to start by thinking about what to pull out. So this was a survey we did last year of teachers, and I've looked at the results from it. It's about e-learning, and having had a close look through, I've decided that I've got an interesting question I want to ask of the data. So I'm looking at this teaching experience one. We've got 56.7% of teachers have got 11 plus years of experience. And what I'm interested in matching that up with is how often do you plan a lesson that requires use of digital devices? So I'm thinking the story I might be able to tell is that perhaps older teachers use digital devices less or whatever. I don't know, we'll find out. So back to the data. First thing I'm going to do is create a new sheet in which to put the data, the query results. I just find it tidier if they're separate from the actual data. And I'm going to rename it, otherwise it gets quite confusing having sheet 5, sheet 6, whatever along the bottom here. So I'm going to call this query results, and it's going to be old versus young, something reasonably descriptive anyway, so long as I can look at that and quickly see what it is. So going back to the responses, I'm just going to have a quick look at the size of this. So A1 is the top left hand corner. If I scroll all the way across, we get to column AI is the last one, the email address one, and we go all the way down to number 73. So I'm going to use that, so A1 to AI 73. So in here, I'm going to do equals query to say I'm doing a query. I'm going to go back to the form and I'm going to select my data. And it's just a bit hard to do. This is why I'm doing this, because it's hard to do all the scrolly thing. You get what's called wild scrolling. And it says here form responses 1, good, and A2, no, A1 is what I'm going to do. So let's change that. And the finish of the data was at AI 73. So that selected all the data, comma, and then in speech marks I need to specify my actual query. So I'm going to select some data. So I'm going to select, and the columns I'm going to take are, this is the experience one with 11 plus years and all the rest of it. And this is the one about how much they use e-learning in classroom. So it's columns B and F are the two I want. And I'm going to say, no comma there, really careful, we put commas in the right place, where, and it's where column B equals, and then making sure I do exactly the same, 11 plus years. Now I've made a mistake already. The thing that I have done is I've used that sort of double speech mark thing instead of the single speech mark thing, because I'm already inside a double speech mark thing. So it'll get confused if I use double speech marks for this bit inside here as well. Odds are that will work. Let's go back. Yeah, it did actually work. So the 11 plus years, this is the experience levels I've got. So let's just have a quick glance. Sometimes the quickest way to grab some data out of that is to insert a chart. I don't want a column chart, I want a pie chart. So this is count of how often do you plan a lesson requires the use of digital devices. Now, what I'm going to do, I could do that whole thing again for the inexperienced teachers. So these are the 11 plus years one, and I want to compare this to the younger teachers. Let's pick that up and move that over there. What's going on? There we go. But I'm going to be a little bit cunning. I'm going to go to this and I'm going to copy the whole thing, and just over here I'm going to paste, and then I'm going to slightly modify. I'm going to say where B is not equal. Use the not equals sign there, looks like that. 11 plus years. So the data that's given me now is all the people who are not 11 plus years or more. And now I can do another chart for this one. Insert chart again, a pie chart, I think will be good. And now I can do a comparison, although I need to be a little bit careful here, because I notice that the once a week at most is orange here, and the once a week at most is green here. So you have to be a little bit careful doing the comparisons, and you'd need to make your own pie charts, either in PictoChart or in wherever. But yeah, there seems to be a genuine difference. This one of once a week at most is rather bigger, so it looks like the once a week at most, which one's that once a week? Is green. Anyway, so I can do a comparison here, and then maybe there'll be a story that I can tell about old teachers versus new teachers and their use of technology. The key thing here, though, is, just to recap, is using a query to pull out a set of the data, a subset of the data, so that then I can look more closely at that subset of data.